Hello and welcome to a little chat with Miner, and in this video I will be talking about first-person shooters and the map or level design that they will have. Now in the background at the moment I have got, of course, Half-Life. Now Half-Life is one of those games that is well known, but I think more so because of its level design. It was the sort of game that you didn't have to go in one particular direction. You could go sort of wherever you wanted to. There was more than one way of completing your objective, and I believe that this is one of the main reasons why this game became popular, because it wasn't just a first-person shooter. It was a first-person shooter crossed with a sort of puzzle element, which you don't tend to see too much of anymore. Now, you can see at the moment, you have to put these blocks together and you have to jump up onto the ladder and then work your way down through this other crate here. Now, what I wanted to talk about a little bit more in this video are the different types of level design that you might get in a first-person shooter. Some of the level design is good, some isn't quite as good, or at least in my opinion. Now, I've got a few games coming up that will show different types of level design, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what I felt was good and what was not so good. So as I said, Half-Life is one of those games that there isn't a set way of completing the game. There can be many different routes that you could take. There could be new enemies that you would encounter by going a different route. You don't have to go the same route every single time. You could try a different route. You could complete the objective in a slightly different way, but one main thing is that, as I said before, there's a sort of puzzle element to the game. Now there are some future levels where you have to really think about where you would have to go. Sometimes it's a little bit obvious, sometimes it's not so obvious. I can think of a few levels where you have to try and sort of jump up onto something and then jump up onto something else and figure out exactly what you would have to do. This is Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon. Now this is a slightly different version of a first-person shooter. This is more of a squad tactical shooter. Now what I've done here is you can have three different teams. I'm currently playing as Charlie, who's going up the hill to one side, but with this game there are several different ways in order to complete the objectives. So Charlie's going up the hill to this side, Bravo were being sent down the centre path, and then Alpha were being sent up the path on the right. Now you could do this in many different ways, so you can see Bravo here are currently in the centre. They can have a look at what's there, and it's very much more tactical, and this will be the sort of thing that you might see more so in if you were to have a video camera on an SAS soldier, for example. This would be the sort of thing that you would see. Now you can do this in many different ways. You could have every soldier going in the same direction. You could just have one soldier going ahead a little bit. You could have half your teammates going one side, half teammates going the other side and just forgetting about a particular route. You could spread them all out. You could have them really close together. But I feel that this variety of what you can do means that the game is much more enjoyable. Now for some people they really like this sort of thing. Some people would just prefer to be one person and just blast their way through. Now the reason I like this is simply because of that variability. Because you can choose how you want to play, there's almost the element of replay ability there, because you could say, right, well this time I'm going to try and have more sharpshooters, I'm going to try and have more tanks going in, like people with big machine guns, that sort of thing. But by having that replayability, I feel that the game is a lot more enjoyable, and I feel that the first-person element of the level design is, in my opinion, much better. Now, at the moment, I put Charlie into a position and think, right, yeah, okay, thinking tactics, what should I do next? Oh, objective completed. I believe that was, Charlie doing something there. And it makes you think a little bit more. And that's personally what I want from a first-person shooter. I want a game that makes me think about what is the best way of doing this. Now, I know every first-person shooter will have that, but games like Ghost Recon and Half-Life before this, I feel make you think about that a little bit more. This is one of my all-time favourite games, Medal of Honor Allied Assault. Now, the reason it's my favourite is simply because it's probably got the most amount of nostalgia for me. Now, this is a game that has some elements of what I would consider good first-person shooter material, but then there are parts where it isn't quite so good. So, just as an example, this is the first part of Mission 2, and you have this sort of big open area that you can see at the moment, and there's enemies scattered about, and you have to figure out what is the best way of doing this. And when you get to certain points, you'll have, as you can see here, a dog coming towards you, and then there might be another dog, there might be a sniper from far away, there might be a couple of guys coming out of a door, that sort of thing. Now, the reason I like this is because you can approach this in several different directions, and you can have more replayability, you can have more fun thinking about what would be the best way of completing this particular section. This is a later mission in Medal of Honor Allied Assault, and this shows me going through a small town. And once again, there are several different ways of completing this. You can go into some of these buildings like I've done here, or you can just ignore them and not do anything with them. Now, what's interesting is if you go into a building, you will trigger certain enemies. Like in that previous building, there was someone on a machine gun. If I went on that machine gun, you would have people constantly spawning in the building that I'm currently in. But that only happens if you go on the machine gun, and there's a few other buildings in this area that have a very similar thing. So once again, that adds to the replayability, it adds to the changes. So when you play this next time round, you might think, I just want to complete this as quickly as I can. But by having that difference, by having that change in the way you play it, I feel adds to how good the game is, because I don't want a game just to be the same thing every time. If it's the same thing every time, then I'm not going to play it again. This is Call of Duty Black Ops. Now, this particular scene features one of the biggest criticisms that is currently facing first-person shooters. Now, sometimes first-person shooters are referred to as corridor shooters, and this is kind of what's happening here. We're currently going upstream, and we're just being channeled through a small area that's probably only, maximum of 10 meters wide, maybe a little bit more than that. But it's basically just a team of you go up and, a couple of snipers on the side. But otherwise it's just one area that you have to look at. And in some ways, you could almost just spray some bullets kind of in front of you, and you would hit everybody that's there. And this is kind of what I was saying is the problem that isn't seen so much in Half-Life or Medal of Honor Allied Assault. It's with those two games, the enemies can come from kind of all over, whereas here it's they're pretty much going to come from in front of you. Now, obviously not all of Black Ops and not all of the other Call of Duties are the same. I believe some of the earlier Call of Duties, from what I remember, do have some very good variants in how you can play the game, but definitely with the later ones, I seem to recall Modern Warfare 2 being a little bit like this as well. There's not really much variance in the level design. It's all pretty much the same idea of having only 10 meters wide for you to go up between, and just funneling the enemies down that way, and you go up towards them. I mean, if you look at where we are now, what's to say that in real life I could just probably try and go into some of the bushes on the left and sneak out behind a rock? Surely you could do that. So why isn't the game letting me do so? And this leads me on to the final game that's in this video, Medal of Honor Airborne. I know it's another Medal of Honor game, but it's one that I really want to show here. Now, the thing that is really good about Medal of Honor Airborne is you basically go where you want. So this particular mission, you're in some small sort of walled town in northern France, and there are objectives all over the place. You choose how you want to complete the objectives. You can choose whether you want to do A first, then B, then C, or you can do B, C, A, or however you want to do it, and you can approach it from whichever direction you like. So for example, down there, that's the entrance to one of the objectives, and then, oh no, that's my own guy. And then if we look over here, this big building over here on top is another objective, and then back around to the right, where I'll be looking in just a moment, is where another objective is. And you can choose how to do these in any particular way that you want. Now when you die, you come out of the airplane again, and you can land wherever you want. To begin with, you can land wherever you want. You can see up there, that's the entrance to another objective. So there's enemies all over the place. If you go into a small corridor, you might find some enemies. If you go into a particular house, you might find some more enemies. So it's kind of just all scattered about. And that's what I like about this. This feels much more realistic than any other first-person shooter that I've played. I'm sure there are first-person shooters out there that are probably even better, but of the ones that I played, I feel that this definitely trumps them all. And I feel the level design is the most realistic. Like, this does feel like a regular town in northern France. Not that I've been to many towns in northern France, but this definitely has the right feel. This definitely feels like I can go wherever I want to. Yes, there are some houses that I can't quite go into, but I guess the door is just locked. But it's not like in the previous game, Black Ops, where I can't run through the vegetation that's to the side, even though it clearly looks like I can. Now, yes, there are some elements of this game, like now, that you're kind of being funneled down a 10-meter path, but I feel that because the main areas of the game aren't like that, I feel that this game can get away with it. If there's some later missions where you have huge areas and the objectives aren't down these paths to the side, they're actually much just at one corner of the big square. So kind of what I'm just doing here is I'm just trying to kill myself just to show you how you can start from a different area. I do wish more games would play a little bit more like Medal of Honor Airborne. I'm sure there are other games out there, but it would be great to see kind of this thing happen again. Like, maybe you don't have to do this all the time, but it'd be great if after going through, I don't know, some forest or something like that, you encounter a small village and your objectives are to clear the church, to clear the police house, to clear this, to clear that, and you kind of just do it when you want to. I think it might even be Call of Duty 2. I can't quite remember. I think it is Call of Duty 2 where there is a mission like that, and that was really good because it was like, this is a realistic scenario. In World War II, people do land in certain areas and have to deal with a whole variety of different places rather than just being funneled down one particular path. So it'd be great if games did that a little bit more. Maybe not too much, because you don't want to have too much of the same thing, but that's kind of what I want to see more in games, and this is why I keep going back to some of the earlier first-person shooters, because they're the ones that do this the best. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.